My name is Carson Steelman, and this is On Air with Heritage Action, a podcast built for conservatives. Twice a week, we break down some of the most important issues facing our country and talk about how you can get involved today in the fight for conservative values. Today, we're joined by Ryan Walker, the Vice President of Government Affairs for Heritage Action, to talk about earmarks, what they are, what just happened in Congress, and what you can do at home to help Congress cut back on out-of-control spending. Ryan, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So we've heard a lot about earmarks over the last couple years, even back to 2010 with the Tea Party movement. So can we kind of start with the basics here and about what an earmark is and what's happening in Congress right now?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Earmarks are specific spending requests developed by a member directed toward projects or programs or businesses or nonprofits within their congressional district. It is spending outside of the regular order appropriations process. These spending requests are attached to pieces of legislation, and they vaguely have to match the subject matter of that bill. So, for instance, transportation bill passes, bipartisan infrastructure passes. Members have the opportunity to request earmarks for those types of projects.
Are they attached to an amendment, or how does that actually work?
So they get attached to the underlying bill. They are outside of the programmatic requests, so it's direct money toward a specific project within the district. It is outside of the jurisdiction of agencies, so they are not confined by the rules and strictures of bureaucracy. And it's money that's directly infused into the congressional district asking for it.
Got it. And so back in 2010, the Republicans implemented a ban on earmarks. Can you talk about what happened and why they moved forward with that? Yeah,
the Tea Party movement, as we all know and remember, was an advocate for reducing government spending and things of that nature, government control and sort of the infection into our daily lives. So when Republicans took back control in 2010, they moved very quickly, immediately, in the first days of the Congress, to pass a ban within their conference, the group of Republicans in the House, to ban consideration of earmarks. And that was directly to get at this question of these billions of dollars that were going out the door for decades to bridges that didn't go anywhere, to, I don't know if this is the case, but something like a petting zoo in a congressional district, things that were silly, unnecessary, inefficient, outside of regular government operations and programs that have been authorized. It's just parochial interests of members of Congress.
Got it. And so now fast forward to 2021, under Speaker Pelosi's leadership, they were re-implemented.
Right.
So there was no longer a ban on earmarks and this type of spending. So this week, another vote happened, though, with House Republicans in the House Republican Conference. And despite Congressman McClintock's really amazing efforts to try and re-implement this ban, the Republican Conference actually voted to keep it. So can you explain what that vote was like and kind of the dynamics there?
Yeah, this is, it's sort of, these happen in closed-door meetings. They are all secret ballot. So the members go in and they discuss their amendment, their change to the rules. McClintock stood up in front of the conference and spoke about his amendment, the reasons to get away from it, to reinstitute the ban for Republicans. However, based on what we know, there were a significant number of members from within the Republican Party who stood up and defended the practice, saying, that there's transparency in earmarks and that it is directed spending toward projects that Republicans like and that conservatives like. But we all know that's not true. They are wholly unrelated from political ideology. They are, again, oftentimes to do a favor for, an individual in the state, another elected representative, the state government, if they need a road or, something like that. It's not, conservative projects to make the country better or to save us from ourselves or anything like that. It's truly parochial interests of Congress.
Right. And I want to dive a little bit more into some of those misconceptions. And let's start with the transparency bit. So, some supporters of earmarks they're very misguided in saying this, but they might try to claim that it's better off for Congress to use earmarks rather than unelected bureaucrats to do the spending. What would you say to that?
Well, I mentioned this a little bit a few minutes ago, but these funding requests don't go through the agencies or the departments within our government that we have dedicated a lot of time and statute and law to restricting how they can behave, restricting their power, and reasserting congressional authority under Article 1 to rein in their behavior, to make sure that they're acting in appropriate ways, to make sure there's oversight and accountability, that they can pull these individuals and agencies in for hearings and they can subpoena them for information and get to the bottom of what these programs and agencies were doing and spending money on. There's none of that really with earmarks, right? They don't have to go through the agencies. They don't have rules that stricture how the money is spent. There's not much oversight on the back end. People don't come back and complain about the money that went to their district, right? And it's only one district, so there aren't a whole set of members upset about the issue. It's sort of that problem where it is a massive benefit for one and a small, tiny fraction of a problem for everyone else. And so it's hard to get the rest of Congress to have any sort of oversight on the back end.
Right. I mean, that doesn't promote transparency at all. It kind of does the opposite, actually. But now I want to talk about how, what you said earlier, like a lot of Republicans saying, oh, well, this, helps our constituents, or it might benefit conservative policies we might like, which is really not true. Actually, a 2016 poll showed how unpopular earmarks are with the American people, that they don't actually want them. It was like 63% of Americans supported the earmarks ban. And then we know that they're not even effective, too. We, like you mentioned earlier, the infamous Alaska bridge to nowhere kind of thing. So, what would you say to that claim, too, about the Republican priorities?
Yeah, again, these are, they go to parks in your district. These are all, I think there's people probably like parks, but I don't know that they would agree that their local park needs a $17 million grant from a federal agency directed by their member of Congress that has no oversight and accountability in the project and is spent by local officials on whatever they want to spend it on. We've seen examples of corruption in the earmark process. There have been lobbyists and individuals who have gone to federal prison because they have tried to direct spending to friends and allies in the state and district. Again, this is about accountability, transparency, and there's none of that with earmarks. You don't have the willingness or the ability to come back in and to do oversight on hundreds of earmarks that cost tens or hundreds of billions of dollars over the years. There just isn't that capacity to do it. So the way that if you want to implement policies that benefit the conservative movement, you do it through the appropriations process. You change statute, you restrict agencies and how they can behave, you direct them how the programs should be done and what programs should be established within those agencies. And it still retains that congressional power, which I think a lot of members focus on with earmarks. A lot of their argument is we have the purse strings, we should be able to dictate how this money is spent. But you do that through the agencies. You do that with oversight. You do that with accountability and transparency on how the money is being spent. You do it with committee jurisdiction to get all of that information and not from a member's, a request from back home from a friend who needs money that goes to this project or that.
Right. And a lot of those projects, should be handled at state and local levels, too.
Exactly.
There's no reason why the federal government needs to be involved,
Absolutely.
Especially when they can't see it, the whole project through.
Right.
Yeah. So, we've established earmarks are bad. The next biggest question, though, now is what do we do about it?
Yeah.
So, as a grassroots organization, what should sentinels and activists who are watching and listening at home right now be doing today and moving forward over the next few years? Yeah.
If there's a silver lining, and I believe there is a silver lining in this, that we will know and be able to see these earmarks. Staff members at the Heritage Foundation, Heritage Action, and other organizations in the conservative movement around town have and will have running lists of earmarks that are offered. Our outlets here at the Heritage Foundation, the Daily Signal, we have highlighted numerous times various examples of earmarks that have gone through. So there will be accountability in the sense that constituents will know broadly what their members are asking for, how much in total they've asked for. Now, you won't see that money and how it's spent in your district, which is obviously the problem, but you'll know that they're requesting it. And we'll identify that and pull it out. And we'll also talk about the programs and what that money is, in theory, supposed to be used for, and how absurd some of those things are. So there will be resources out there to track some of this spending, to give us, the American people, the grassroots, the ability to weigh in with our representatives if they're asking for earmarks and sending billions to inefficient projects and things within their community, to call their representative and say, hey, this is not right. We don't need a study on why, how dogs can be healthier in our community, right? We don't need that type of work. What we need is our agencies to get under control. We need to get our schools in order. We need to get funding for the government overall down, because we're running, $80 billion deficits every month. Our debt's out of control. Our agencies are filled with woke staff and are, instilling that across the country in every single institution that we have. So that's where our work should be dedicated. And so we'll have that resource, make sure that we call our members, flag for them that we're paying attention to it, and that we're going to see those requests, and then we're going to hold them accountable for them.
Yeah. And then just one more thing too, that we didn't really talk about as much earlier, but this isn't just a couple $1,000s here or there. No. This is billions. Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of members in Congress will treat it like monopoly money.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. Oftentimes these requests are, at a minimum, hundreds of thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, but they go up to, there was $1 billion earmark, hundreds of millions of dollars, tens of millions. I mean, it is truly egregious and an inefficient use of taxpayer money.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to close out here, I cannot underscore enough how important it is that everybody at home uses their voice, even though this vote with the House Republican Conference didn't necessarily go the way we wanted it to. And although we are deeply disappointed in the way that vote did turn out, the fight's not over yet. We still have a lot of resources, like Ryan talked about, at our fingertips. We can still follow what our representatives are doing, and we can contact them. We can tell them how we feel and tell them that this is not an issue that's going to go away for them. So thank you so much for Ryan for being here. That's it for another episode of On Air with Heritage Action. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what you heard in today's episode, please click the follow button. If you want to receive a text message each time a new episode airs, text podcast to 51776 and you'll never miss an episode. That's podcast to 51776. Hi, it's me again, and we need your help. If you like the insights and activist resources we are providing, please take 1 minute and help us spread the word. Share this episode with friends and family on social media, email, or text. We need everyone's help in the fight to hold Washington accountable. And don't forget, you are also able to subscribe and listen to episodes on your smartphone. Just open up your favorite podcast app and search for On Air with Heritage Action. Click subscribe and download episodes so that you can take them with you on the go. It's the best way to make sure you never miss a thing. Thanks.